TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What about working with Bruiser Brody? What was it like working with Frank?
Bruiser, 1976 or 7, called me. I believe he was in Florida or New York, looking for an opportunity in Texas. And I told him right at that time, I didn't have a spot that he would be interested in. Only had things that would not be good for him. But for him to call me back in 6 months, which he did. And I still didn't have an opening spot. I told him to call me back in 3 months. And I told him, I'm not, fucking you off. It's just, really, I don't have something that you would be happy with. But as soon as I do, I'll bring you in. So he sent me photos of himself, and I really liked his look. He was tremendously green at the time. And he called me about 3 months later, and I said, yeah, I got a spot for you. Come on in. And when I saw him physically for the first time, I was sitting in my office, and he come through the door. He filled up the whole door. At the time, he was 320 pounds, big hulking guy, green as grass, didn't trust anyone, much like Don Jardine. Didn't trust you because he had been abused by just about every promoter. Oh, we're going to do this and that for you, and then, use him to get someone else over, use him as a tag team partner, or ask him, to do bumps when he's working with a guy half his size.
Right.
And him and I hit it off. I think because I was really honest with him and didn't bring him in until I could really use him. I think, I gained his trust. And over the years, I had no problems with Don Jardine. I had no problems with Abdullah Butch. I had no problems with Bruiser Brody. I had no problems with Curtis Iacare. Had no problems with Mark Lewin. I mean, I worked with a lot of guys with very, very difficult reputations, and I never had problems with them because I used them to the best of their ability. I didn't ask them to do things to help others. I asked them to help draw money. And Bruiser became a tremendous friend and started with me then and was with me until he died. I mean, when I was in the Carolinas and him and Stan Hansen were coming, he called me and asked, Gary, would you represent me? Which I said yes. When I was in Atlanta right before he died, I had talked to him about coming to Atlanta. He said, would you represent me? I said, yes, I would. So him and I were very close. I never had a problem with him at all.
I know a lot of guys like Bobby Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel have both said in regards to Brody that he would be bad for business sometimes. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I never saw him that way. If you would try to take Bruiser Brody and make someone else look good at his expense or not pay him what he had coming,
right?
Yeah. But Bobby Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel were no different. You short Bobby on the payoff. What's he going to do? You misuse Bobby. What's he going to do? You misuse Nick Bockwinkel. It's easy to point the finger at other people. But I don't know very many big name wrestlers that you can fuck over and they come back with a smile on their face. The difference with Bruiser Brody, he would beat the shit out of you.
Right.
Bobby may call you an asshole and go away and knock you to everyone else. And Nick would probably do the same, where Bruiser Brody would get right in your face and punch you.
Right.
That was the difference. Brody was a man's man. If you treated Brody with respect, he showed you nothing but respect in return. Could we turn that off a little bit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep.
My hate. Could you send me a copy of this when you get it done?
Without a doubt, definitely. I'll get right.
Good, that's very important to me.
If Brody was still alive today, how do you think his career would have went up to this point?
I think Bruiser Brody would have been Bruiser Brody. I don't know how he would have handled corporate wrestling. I think he would have been much like me because he was a rebel at heart. He wanted to be Bruiser Brody, and anyone that tried to take that away was going to have trouble.
Do you think he would have ended up in ECW at some point, probably?
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't think so.
Just Japan. And
I think Japan. Yeah, he had such a good deal in Japan.
I don't mean ECW that's on TV today. I mean the old ECW.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think Bruiser would have went that route. I really don't. I think Bruiser had such a good deal in Puerto Rico and such a good deal in Japan. And he also had New Zealand and he had Australia that were open for him too. And he made enough money. You know, he had St. Louis, he had Texas, he had Indianapolis, he had Minneapolis. Bruiser had more work than he could handle. So I think he would have been okay. I think Bruiser would have been much like me. I think the beginning of the 90s, he would have hung it up and said, I've had it. You know, corporate wrestling is not for me.
Whose idea was it to pair you with Don Jardine?
I had met Don Jardine just slightly in Amarillo on my way out. And when Fritz had contacted me, he said, do you have anyone you would be interested in bringing to Texas? And at the time, I really didn't.
Right.
Because I didn't know how long I was going to be there. Because if the money wasn't the way they said, because they had told me the first time that I would be figured in on the main event money. That was all understood the first time. So the second time, I was leery. I took a chance. And Fritz said, do you know a guy named Don Jardine? I said, yeah, I met him in Amarillo. He said, how would you like it to bring him in to manage him? And I said, I think it'd be great. And then we decided to put a mask on him.
What was the magic between you two?
Don and I?
Yeah.
Don had been in the wrestling business for 12 years. He had been lied to, cheated, misused, abused in every way possible. And he trusted me. And he understood that my main concern was his best interest, to take care of him. And after a few months, he understood that Gary Hart's the best thing that ever happened to me. And in many ways, he was the best thing that ever happened for me.
I was going to ask you, how instrumental was he to your career?
Well, a lot of people say Gary Hart made a lot of guys, but Don Jardine made me. Don Jardine gave me the opportunity to become who I became in wrestling. Without Donald, my career would have flourished at some time. I don't know exactly when. But he was the guy that really put me over the top and really made me someone that promoters would listen to and say, hey, ask Gary what he thinks.
Do you think he could have been a world champion?
Oh, of course he could have. The only bad thing about Don was promoters were scared to death of him. Donald was not above slapping a promoter around. If a promoter tried to lie to him or cheat him on a payoff, Donald would have no problem smacking them around.
Right.
So for that reason alone, they would never give him a position as world heavyweight champion. Could he have carried that title? Of course he could have.
Memories of yourself going over to Australia for Jim Barnett?
Well, that also was Don Jardine. He was the one that made that possible. As I said, I went to Texas with him, and we really got over big time. I mean, he was such a sensation. And Barnett contacted me and asked if I would bring him to Australia. And Donald and I went, and he was tremendous. I mean, he did tremendous business with Mario Milano, Spiros Arion, Bob Ellis, Don Leo Jonathan, all the great guys of that time. Donald probably was the biggest, other than Bruno Sammartino. I think he did more dollar per arena business than anyone.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.